Many believe that saving the first 100,000 is difficult, but Charlie Munger would tell you that's just the beginning. The real challenge lies in becoming the kind of person capable of saving that first 100,000. Throughout his long career, Munger has observed countless individuals who never managed to accumulate their first 100,000, not because their income was too low, but because their mindset proved too expensive. These people spent like millionaires while thinking like the poor, constantly complaining about unfair circumstances. Munger himself experienced similar struggles in his youth. Coming of age during the tail end of the Great Depression, he witnessed enough tragedies to understand a fundamental truth. People weren't defeated by markets, but by their own desires. According to Munger's philosophy, a person's ability to save their first 100,000 doesn't depend on luck, but on their capacity to endure boredom. Wealth doesn't come from being clever. It comes from not wasting money during tedious times. This represents the first lesson. Most people fail to realize that the first 100,000 is the slowest, most painful, and most torturous stage. During this period, returns are almost invisible. Money grows so slowly, it seems to mock one's efforts. But if someone can persevere and cross that threshold, compound interest begins working like a loyal servant. Munger often emphasizes that money works more reliably than employees. Money doesn't call in sick or complain about overtime, but first, one must have enough money. The 100,000 serves as the entry ticket. Both Buffett and Munger endured that difficult period of low income, few opportunities, and high bills. However, they possessed one crucial quality: the patience for delayed gratification. They would rather skip a steak dinner than disrupt their savings rhythm. Smart people understand patience. Foolish people only know how to complain. Munger views the first 100,000 not as wealth, but as a test of character. Those who can save it prove they possess the core capability for achieving financial freedom, self-control. Once someone passes this trial, they discover the world changes around them. They no longer fear unemployment, inflation, or economic cycles because they finally have choices. Choice represents the true definition of freedom. When young people ask Munger how to start investing, he offers only one piece of advice: save your first 100,000. Don't discuss anything else. The 100,000 isn't the destination, but without it, there isn't even a starting point. Munger believes that wanting to achieve freedom through salary alone remains a fantasy. Only when money begins generating money does life's momentum shift in your favor. Before that moment, you're not an investor. You're merely a chip in someone else's game. The first 100,000 isn't money. It's a war between rationality, discipline, and desire. Those who lose this war remain poor for life. People often think they lack money, but Munger suggests what they actually lack is clarity. Human nature despises delay. Every cell screams for immediate comfort, which explains why people spend money that should be invested. It's not about not understanding finance, it's about the brain not yet learning to delay rewards. In the 1950s, when Munger first seriously contemplated wealth, he discovered that the biggest difference between poor and rich people wasn't income, but the ability to wait. Poor people see a little money and want to immediately convert it into satisfaction. Rich people see a little money and want to turn it into more money. This sounds simple, but almost nobody achieves it because waiting means boredom, loneliness, and even self-doubt. person must endure watching others show off new cars, new clothes, and new vacations while having nothing themselves. Most people can't handle that feeling. They'd rather fake being rich than temporarily be poor. Munger recalls knowing a friend in his youth who was intelligent and talented, earning decent money, but remained perpetually broke. Why? Because he only consumed the future, never preserving the present. Every payday, he'd say he would earn more later to make up for it. But life has no later, only 1 month after another of zero savings. At 50, he didn't even have 10,000. By 60, Munger no longer needed to think about money thanks to compound interest. This represents the difference, not intelligence, but self-control. Munger emphasizes that wealth isn't earned through income. It's built from money that doesn't get spent. Savings possess a magical psychological power, allowing someone to feel for the first time that money can work for them. Before that point, they remain slaves. Afterward, they begin employing workers. But the path to that stage is filled with traps. Trap 1. Comparison. Seeing others buy luxury cars makes people feel they deserve rewards too. That's not a reward. That's accelerating toward bankruptcy. Trap 2. Borrowing. Credit cards make someone appear wealthy, but they only speed up movement toward poverty. Trap 3. Delusion. Believing that high income will save you simply means becoming a poor person who spends more. Munger has seen too many people spend their entire lives busy earning piles of money, yet never retaining any. They sprint on money's treadmill, but remain perpetually in place. To escape that fate, one must transform consumption desires into capital desires. You must watch your 100,000 like a hunter watching prey. This 100,000 isn't just a number, it's a clean break from your past lifestyle. From that moment, you're no longer manipulated by advertisements or led by friends' opinions. You begin thinking for yourself. Everyone has heard stories about compound interest, but few have truly witnessed it working. It's not because the math is wrong, but because most people give up before compound interest takes effect. The first stage of compound interest is the most brutal. Almost nothing happens. After saving for a year, account numbers barely change. After working hard to restrain consumption, accounts only show small decimal increases. Then doubt creeps in. Is this a scam? Should money be put to work? Then they start moving it around randomly, buying stocks, selling stocks, listening to news, listening to neighbors. Eventually, they discover that compound interest didn't make them poor. Emotions did. Munger witnessed this script play out countless times during the 1970s. Smart people were too eager to be clever, always wanting to optimize the compound interest process. Foolish people were too greedy, hoping to become rich overnight. But truly wealthy people simply endured. Compound interest is a test of patience. It rewards those who do nothing. That's its most brutal yet fairest aspect. You must endure the period of slow growth until the snowball becomes large enough to roll quickly. As Buffett says, life is like rolling a snowball. The key is wet snow and a long slope. But nobody tells you that before the slope becomes long, you must push for a long time. Many people give up halfway, then turn around and buy the car they deserved. That car becomes their grave in the world of compound interest. In compound interest realm, time is a friend and impulse is an enemy. Munger learned one profound lesson in his youth that he never forgot. One year, he watched others make money rapidly through short-term stock trading while his investment seemed motionless. His heart itched unbearably, and he nearly sold all his assets to chase trends. Fortunately, he resisted because he had learned early on that market madness doesn't last, but compound interest does. Years later, those genius speculators disappeared while his money continued generating itself. That's when Munger understood that compound interest isn't designed to excite you, but to give you peace of mind. Compound interest's secret is that it requires boredom. The more boring you feel, the closer you are to wealth. Those investors who experience daily excitement are often just regular casino patrons. Compound interest hates action and loves stillness. It's a docile ox that won't retaliate but will steadily feed you. Unfortunately, human nature dislikes slowness. People would rather chase the next trend than patiently guard their own long slope. Munger often says that smart people's greatest enemy isn't stupidity, but restlessness. Compound interest needs time to operate, while anxiety needs only a minute to destroy it. To truly understand compound interest, one must understand the power of doing nothing. That's not laziness, it's wisdom. Once you master this patient nothingness, you win not just wealth, but mental state. Because compound interest's true reward isn't money. It's no longer being anxious about money. Many people fear inflation, but they never fear their own foolishness. Inflation might cost you 5% annually, but one foolish decision can return you to square one. Munger has seen too many smart people go bankrupt throughout his life, not because the world is cruel, but because they refuse to admit they could also make mistakes. In 1973, the stock market went crazy. Every taxi driver discussed stocks. Barbers recommended mutual funds, and bank employees bragged about investment portfolios. Sound familiar? Back then, people also believed this time is different. Then the market crashed. Those who considered themselves geniuses got shattered by reality. Munger remembers a young man confidently telling him he'd already made $500,000 and was faster than Munger. Munger told him that running fast doesn't mean you're headed in the right direction. Years later, that young man had run out of everything. Quick wealth and permanent bankruptcy often separate by just one decision. According to Munger's philosophy, compound interest enemy isn't low interest rates, but foolish behavior. Someone might spend 10 years saving their first 100,000, only to see it evaporate in 10 days due to one seemingly clever operation. Most people don't understand that wealth growth is linear, but foolishness's cost is exponential. When you start believing you won't make mistakes, mistakes begin their countdown. Smart people don't pursue perfection. They pursue making fewer mistakes. Fools pursue making money. Munger never feared earning slowly. He feared losing quickly. People love discussing returns, but he cares more about survival rates. If you lose your principal, what returns are there to discuss? Therefore, he'd rather miss 100 opportunities than be destroyed by one mistake. Some call him too conservative. He responds that he's not conservative. He simply understands costs. Foolish investments, greedy borrowing, trend-following speculation, emotional buying and selling are more dangerous than any economic crisis. Because inflation won't make you lose your mind, but greed will. Want to know why people who save their first 100,000 change? It's not because they have more money. It's because they begin fearing loss. That fear isn't anxiety, it's wisdom. Only after experiencing the hardship of earning money does one understand the terror of losing it easily. Munger was impulsive in his youth too, but each lesson made him calmer. Eventually, he learned one phrase: never give foolishness a chance to strike. You can tolerate market volatility, but you cannot tolerate repeatedly making the same mistake. You can't stop inflation or control events, but you can control one thing: your own foolishness rate. This sounds mundane, but it's the secret to long-term wealth. Remember, wealth is accumulated through not making mistakes, retained through making fewer errors. Smart people want to win, wise people want to survive. Those who survive long-term eventually win. Poor people constantly chase, rich people constantly wait. This isn't a matter of luck, but a watershed in thinking patterns. Poor people chase prices, rich people wait for value. Poor people chase trends, rich people wait for timing. This difference determines a lifetime's destiny. Munger also chased in his youth. Whenever he heard about some stock doubling quickly, he'd rush in. Then he learned a brutal truth: chasing always ends in getting fleeced. Because when you chase, you're playing by rules others have set, and they've long prepared for you to be the one holding the bag. Rich people never chase. They wait for prices to fall below value, wait for the masses to lose rationality, wait for opportunities to drop at their feet. This waiting isn't laziness, it's strategy. Poor people don't understand this. They think waiting wastes time, not knowing that waiting is the process of accumulating strength. Compound interest's essence is also waiting. You must first let time work, then you can appear smart. Humanity's greatest tragedy is using anxiety to fight time. Poor people worry about missing opportunities, so they keep moving. The more they move, the faster they lose. Rich people fear making mistakes, so they don't move. The longer they don't move, the more steadily they win. This explains why markets appear chaotic short-term, but long-term always reward those lazy people. Waiting is the wise person's weapon, but there's one prerequisite. You must have confidence. People without money can't afford to wait. People with savings have the right to be patient. This is why Munger says the first 100,000 isn't just money. It's also anxiety's antidote. With it, you can observe the market quietly while others panic. Market crashes don't make you panic. Market madness doesn't make you greedy. Others are driven by emotions. You're driven by logic. You no longer ask whether you should buy. You ask whether the price is absurd. These are two different lives, one passive, one active. The longer you wait, the more anxious others become, and the market always transfers money from anxious people to calm people. Munger has never made money through speed in markets. He makes money through patience. Humans like excitement and quick thrills, but markets don't care about your feelings. They only reward those who can endure. Therefore, Munger says poor people want to get rich immediately. Rich people want to get rich slowly. This is the world's most unfair yet fairest rule. Poor people constantly search for shortcuts. Rich people repeatedly execute common sense. In the end, common sense wins. Wealth isn't the result of being smart. It's a byproduct of patience. When you understand this, you stop chasing the next trend. You begin waiting for your own cycle. From that moment, you no longer resemble a gambler. You become a capitalist. Many people say they want to achieve freedom through making money. Munger must tell them an unpleasant fact. Freedom isn't earned. It's bought back. The money you earn doesn't represent your freedom. The money you don't spend gives you choices. Munger has seen too many people with shockingly high incomes who live like hostages. They buy houses, cars, face an anxiety, then spend 10 years repaying debts. Ultimately, they become prisoners of high salaries. They think they're winners, but they're just being poor in more expensive ways. When Munger was young, he also thought income was key. Later, he understood that control is key. Controlling spending, controlling impulses, controlling desires, controlling that brain influenced by others' opinions. Money is a tool, but for most people, it becomes the master. The more urgently you want to display wealth, the less money belongs to you. It belongs to your loan company, credit card bills, and your vain heart. Munger likes money, not because it lets him buy things, but because it gives him the right not to buy. He can refuse foolish bosses, foolish partnerships, and foolish trends. That's freedom. Poor people think freedom means doing whatever they want. Rich people know freedom means not needing to please others. Being able to say no to foolishness represents true wealth. The first 100,000 isn't just assets, it's your independence pass. With it, you're no longer forced to act. You can wait a bit, think a bit. You don't have to endure garbage jobs because of bills or make garbage investments because of fear. Many people ask Munger how he had the courage to quit being a lawyer and go into investing when young. He tells them he didn't have courage, he had savings. When you have savings, you have freedom. Freedom isn't a philosophical question, it's a cash flow question. Without money in your pocket, you don't even get to make choices. Everyone wants to do what they love, but reality is you must first purchase the right to choose what you love. How much money does that take? At least 100,000. The first 100,000 transforms you from passive to active. This isn't a magic number, it's a psychological turning point. Before having money, life pushes you around. After having money, you can stop and think. This sounds minor, but it's life's greatest leverage. Some people go their whole lives without realizing they're not pursuing wealth. They're escaping fear. They work hard to earn more only because they lack the courage to admit they've never actually controlled their lives. Money can buy back not happiness, but autonomy. Munger spent decades understanding this. Freedom isn't about how much you earn, but about how little you need to care. Wealthy people buy back time. Smart people buy back peace of mind. Clear-headed people buy back the freedom to refuse foolishness. Remember this phrase, money isn't everything, but poor people don't even get the chance to experience that money isn't everything. Money can buy many things, but it can't buy time, rationality, or dignity. Ironically, most people sacrifice precisely these three things for money. Munger knows too many people who desperately made money when young, desperately maintained superficial decency in middle age, and desperately tried to buy back health and dignity in old age. This is an absurd transaction. They won income, but lost wisdom. When a person loses rationality, money becomes explosives. It magnifies all weaknesses: greed, vanity, jealousy, impulse. Rational people use money to make money. Foolish people use money to destroy themselves. The most important lesson Munger learned young was that true wealth is the ability to remain calm. Being able to maintain rationality when others go crazy represents real capability. Being able to remain quiet when others show off represents real cultivation. Money can't buy rationality, but rationality can preserve money. This is why Munger always emphasizes that character matters more than intelligence. The smartest people in markets often go bankrupt most easily because they believe too much in their ability to control everything. They treat confidence as capital and end up losing even their principal. Munger knew an investor who claimed he could predict markets. He did guess correctly a few times. Then he believed his own myth. The last time, he bet everything in his family and lost so badly that he even lost his rationality. He wasn't poor, he was insane. This is what Munger means by rationality, humanity's most expensive asset. Once lost, no amount of money can buy it back. As for time, that's an even more brutal account. Lost money can be re-earned. Lost time is gone forever. Most people spend youth earning money, then use money to exchange for health. They think this is growth, but it's actually a Ponzi scheme. If you don't understand how to spend time, you'll never understand how to spend money. Munger has never wasted time envying others throughout his life because he knows that the person who appears enviable might be desperately holding together their life. Finally, there's dignity. Money can't buy it, but lacking money makes it easy to lose. Dignity isn't expensive clothing or luxury cars, but being able to see others' success while remaining neither humble nor arrogant. That kind of calm rationality, not being swayed by external forces, represents true wealth. Once, a young person asked Munger how to become as calm as him. He said, "When you no longer need to please anyone, you'll naturally become calm. Money can't buy that freedom. It can only provide conditions. You must rely on rationality to guard it. Therefore, Munger often says money is merely a magnifying glass. It magnifies who you are and your weaknesses. If you're foolish, it makes you more foolish. If you're smart, it makes you clearer. But no matter how rich you are, you can't buy three things: time, rationality, and dignity. These three represent life's true compound interest. Most people spend their lives chasing money, yet never ask themselves what they're actually chasing. They say they want financial freedom, but really just want to spend more money without guilt. They say they want passive income, but really just want active laziness. They think wealth is medicine, but it's only an amplifier. Without learning restraint, money only makes you greedier. Poor people are poor in pockets. Rich people are poor in desires. This isn't Munger preaching. It's a pattern he's witnessed firsthand. He's seen people earning millions still anxious because they live in more expensive houses and no wealthier friends. Thus, their enough always resides in others' wallets. Their lifestyle always runs ahead of happiness. Once you become accustomed to comparison, nothing satisfies anymore. Desire is the market's most expensive toll. It consumes your savings and devours your rationality. This is why Munger has always advocated that frugality isn't a sign of poverty, but a sign of freedom. Frugal people aren't stingy. They're simply smart enough to know that satisfaction doesn't come from spending money, but from control. Munger has seen too many people's lives collapse because they thought earning more meant they could spend more. But what truly traps people is never an income gap, but desire's expansion. Want to become wealthy? First, shrink what you want. The more you control, the less money controls you. This sounds simple, but almost nobody achieves it because human brains are naturally dissatisfied. Advertisements, social media, colleagues, relatives all teach you to buy more. Nobody teaches you to want less. But the truth is simple. A person who can control desires is more powerful than someone who can control markets. Desire makes people foolish. The more you want to prove yourself, the easier it is to do stupid things. Munger has never relied on others to define success. He doesn't care who's richer than him. As long as he can sleep well, laugh genuinely, and not pretend to be someone he's not, that's enough. Money isn't the goal. It's a magnifying glass. Desire is fire that can illuminate you or burn you down. Munger knew a friend who made millions in real estate when young. He could have stopped to enjoy life, but he said he wanted more. Years later, the market crashed. He lost everything overnight. That day, he told Munger he'd actually had enough all along. Munger looked at him and said only one sentence. People who have enough don't say they want more. Wealth isn't about how much you can buy, but how much you can let go of. Many think Munger is frugal, but he's just too lazy to waste, too lazy to prove himself, too lazy to show off, too lazy to repeat human foolishness. The happiest wealth isn't owning much, but needing little. If Munger had to summarize a lifetime of wealth experience in one word, it would be patience. Not talent, not opportunity, but that kind of endurance that can sit through years and persist through time. He's seen too many people who are poor not because they don't work hard, but because they're too rushed, rushing to make money, rushing to prove themselves, rushing to change destiny. As a result, they dig pits at every stage and then fall into their own anxiety. You must understand that wealth never grows linearly. It's more like a tree. You water it, fertilize it, watch it. Nothing happens for the first few years. Then one day, it suddenly grows explosively. The problem is, most people don't survive to that day. They give up before compound interest inflection point, waver before correct strategies take root. They want to see immediate returns, so they make immediately stupid moves. This world's game rules are simple. Impatient people hand money to patient people. The investors Munger most admired when young weren't those who got rich overnight, but those who did nothing yet kept living. They didn't seem particularly special, but decades later, they were wealthier than anyone because they understood time's language. Time is the only thing in the world that doesn't lie and never owes debts. Give it trust, and it gives you wealth. Push it to hurry, and it punishes you. Buffett likes to talk about the snowball principle, but nobody wants to hear about the rolling part. That part is long, boring, and makes people doubt whether they're wasting time. But precisely that period of slow rolling determines the snowball's fate. Most people only see how big the snowball is. Nobody sees how long someone pushed it. You must learn to accumulate in silence, persist when nobody applauds. When the world ignores you, you continue being rational, continue being frugal, continue thinking. When everyone else is panicking, your moment arrives. Munger doesn't believe in luck. He believes in waiting because luck is merely result. Waiting is process. This world punishes restlessness and rewards calmness. Look at those who lose everything. They all share one trait, wanting too much too quickly. And those truly wealthy people all possess almost religious patience. Patient enough that people think they're foolish. But precisely because they seem foolish, they're never swayed by market noise. Patience is strategic camouflage. It makes you appear ordinary until all the smart people have succumbed to their own restlessness. You don't need to do much. You only need to wait a bit longer than others. This extra bit of waiting represents compound interest's entire secret. The greatest fortunes in human history all belong to those who understand slowness. Slow is the highest form of fast because it's built on an alliance of rationality, restraint, and time. So if you ask Munger what the best investment is, he'll answer, invest in your patience. Because markets will deceive you, news will deceive you, emotions will deceive you, but time never lies. When you finally save your first 100,000, you'll discover the world hasn't changed. You have. You look at news without anxiety. You look at fluctuations without complaining. You look at opportunities without impulsiveness. For the first time, you realize money's true meaning isn't more, but enough. Enough to let you sleep well, enough to let you refuse foolishness, enough to let you stop and think about life's direction. Then you'll understand that wealth isn't a numbers game, but a character transformation. People who can save their first 100,000 have actually already won life's hardest level, defeating their own impulses. After that, wealth growth is just a matter of time. But that discipline and clarity can't be bought at any price. As Buffett says, the first 100,000 is the hardest. Munger would add that the difficulty isn't the money, but whether you can choose to ride an old bike when everyone else buys luxury cars, whether you can choose silence when others brag about returns, whether you can still choose slowness when the whole world rushes you. That's compound interest's true threshold. You must understand that wealth is freedom's source, but rationality is the foundation. Money only gives rationality more operating space. When you reach that stage, you'll discover you no longer care much about money. You care more about whether time passes worthily, whether you're becoming smarter, whether you're avoiding stupidity. Wealth's endpoint isn't luxury, but tranquility. Where does that peace come from? From finally understanding you don't need to prove anything. You don't need to beat anyone. You only need to beat your past self, that person without patience, without plans, without self-control. That's true financial freedom. It's not having so much money you can do whatever you want, but finally being able to not do what you don't want to do. When you reach that state, money becomes background noise, no longer dominating your emotions. You begin focusing on judgment, learning, and thinking. These represent true capital. Munger has lived 100 years and seen too many people win money yet lose themselves. He's also seen many who appear ordinary but live stable, clear, and free lives. The latter represent true winners. So if someone asks Munger where to start, he'd say start from the piece you can control. Start from restraint, from saving, from rationality. You don't need genius, don't need insider information, don't need miracles. You only need to do one thing. Save your first 100,000. It will change your life, change your thinking, and more importantly, change how you view the world. When you achieve that step, you'll understand what Munger means. Money isn't the goal, but a teacher that helps you become a smarter person. By then, you won't ask what to do next because you'll already know the answer. Make fewer mistakes, endure long-term, and watch time work for you. That is wisdom. Thank you for watching today's exploration of Charlie Munger's timeless financial wisdom. His principles of patience, discipline, and rational thinking remain as relevant today as ever. If you found value in learning about Munger's approach to building wealth and achieving true financial freedom, please consider subscribing to our channel. We're committed to bringing you more insights from the world's greatest investors and thinkers, helping you develop the mindset and strategies needed for long-term success. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our next video. Remember, as Munger would say, The journey to your first 100,000 starts with a single decision today. Let's build wealth wisely together.